My name is Rich Gill. I am Program Director of Sound Unseen. I am here with Rebecca Heidenberg, Director of Queens of the Revolution. Rebecca, thank you for joining us and doing this Q&A with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me and having the film at the festival. I was really excited to participate in this year's program.
Well, we're glad to have you, glad to have the film. It's fantastic, and to have this is the world premiere, correct?
It is.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for giving us that opportunity. So I have a number of prepared questions. People who are watching, feel free to write in, and I'll kind of choose from my questions and what people write in, and we'll just kind of go from there and see where it takes us. First thing I wanted to ask is, how did you get involved in what was the sort of the impetus for wanting to do this documentary and on this specific place?
So two of the other people who worked on the film, Kristen and Jimena, had been spending a lot of time in Cuba and had found Mejunje. Jimena has done a lot of work there, facilitating productions there and doing exchanges. And Kristen had actually been working with a program that actually brought instruments to musicians in Cuba. And she met this punk band through that that performed at Mejunje often, and they brought her there. And Jimena had known about it as well and knew a bunch of people connected to the space. And at the time I was actually in grad school and sort of taking a turn in my career and was looking for a subject for my first feature. And we talked about it and decided to do this film together because it just sounded like this incredible space to me, and they were really excited about it. Yeah, so that's kind of how it started.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's definitely it seems like a really interesting, like, open place that does a lot of different things. One thing that struck me at the beginning of the film is how they talk about, like, I found my first pair of shoes in a dumpster, or, making blush out of crushed brick so they could perform. Nowadays, something like RuPaul's Drag Race is arguably one of the most popular, competition shows on television. So young people have something like that to sort of, like, they have examples of people doing drag and things like that didn't exist back then, especially in a place like Cuba where, being gay was illegal. Was that sort of on your mind when you were doing these interviews and making sure that you highlight the struggle that they went through back in that time?
Yeah, it was definitely important to put across that drag was really a form of activism, and it was a really brave act, and it was something people did and sort of risked their lives to do in a lot of ways. And it was so important to them to be able to express themselves and to speak. And so we really wanted to get across what they went through to sort of put on these performances and the history of that, and how sort of important it was for them and how important it was for Cuba, and to change people's mentality, and really to show how Mejunje was kind of at the forefront of this before, RuPaul's Drag Race was kind of, it's a lot of fun, and it's great, but it's, not the same thing when they were doing this at a time where it was literally illegal to be homosexual, where people had been sent to forced labor camps, and they decided to, come out and say who they were and dance. And also bringing that joy that they clearly had in it to the film was really important. It's serious and it's activism, but it was also about joy.
Yeah, kind of going off of that, there's I think a lot of people say, music saved my life or art saved my life or, you know, sports saved my life. But, you know, when Crespo at his birthday party is talking about how this place saved his life, it's, you sense that he means that literally. Like he wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that. And I think it's that way for a lot of the people that you talk to. Um, you know, how important was it to point that out in the film that this is a, you know, this is a literal life-saving place. It's not just, you know, figuratively.
Yeah, no, that was a really important part of the film. And sort of, we spent a lot of time thinking about different ways to approach that. You know, Silverio, who's not in the film that much actually, but I think says some really key things. Um, we sort of portrayed him in the film as he is in real life, which is kind of the man behind the curtain. And he's someone who really is a father figure to so many people in that community. Um, and Crespo, yeah, he really meant it. Silverio kind of found him when Crespo was really lost, and gave him this space and gave him purpose in his life. And Crespo spends like every day, you know, in that space, cleaning and helping and really being part of the core of Mehunhe. And yeah, he really means it. You know, he doesn't know where he would be if Silverio hadn't sort of given him this space that he could call home, where, you know, and everyone knows Crespo, and it's this like kind of beautiful community there. You know, anyone can come in and just sort of be welcomed, really. And it's really actually true.
Yeah, his story was definitely one that stuck out to me as like, wow, this person, like they've literally dedicated their life to this place, and you know, because it did quite literally save their life. So yeah, I thought he was great, like a lot of the people in it.
Yeah, I love
Um,
Crespo. He's amazing. He was one of the first people I met there, and he was just so warm and open and so excited to tell us about Mehunhe, and was always making sure that we were meeting the right people and talking to everyone. And he would take care of our equipment, and he would like make sure to walk me back to my where I was sleeping at night, to make sure we were safe. Not that it was particularly unsafe there, but he really sort of took us under his wing. And I'm so grateful for him. And yeah, he's a wonderful person.
that sort of brings up the question, you know, him and really a lot of the people you talk to have such, you know, such fascinating, rich stories. Any of them could have had a documentary just made on, you know, themselves. I'm curious how much did you shoot and how much, you know, was left on the cutting room floor, so to speak.
There was quite a bit left on the cutting room floor. I mean, we didn't go crazy with shooting, but at the same time, there was a lot of people that we cut out of the film who we loved, and it was so hard to cut them out of the film. But you know, you can't have everyone; you have to narrow down a little bit. And there was definitely a lot of people that we spent a lot of time with that didn't make it in the film, and in fact, whole communities. I mean, we shot with, because there's so much going on at Mehune. There's a hip hop community, there's a punk community, there's singer songwriters. There's so many different kinds of people, and we spoke to a lot of them. Punk was actually originally going to be a huge part of the film. Also, it was sort of going to be like punk and drag shows, but it was just too much in one film to tell that whole story. So we ended up cutting back on the punk side of things. But yeah, there could be, you know, 10 documentaries made about this place, from so many different angles. And yeah, from, you know, even like a portrait of just one of the people in it. But we really wanted a sense of, to sort of create a sense of what the space feels like, and sort of focus somewhat on the LGBTQ community.
Awesome. This is a question from one of our viewers. The film told such a vivid visual history through daily scenes of the city. Can you talk a little bit about how you chose the B-roll that you selected to represent the community?
So when we were shooting there, we spent a lot of time just wandering around when we had free time, when we weren't. We spent most of our time at Mehunhe or with people in their homes. But we also spent a lot of time just like in the streets with people and walking around, and spent a lot of time just trying to capture the city, because Mehunhe is not, it's a space, but it's also at the heart of this place called Santa Clara. And it's really a part of that city. So we really wanted to make sure that there was a connection between that space and the bigger context that it exists within. I don't know if there was like a specific strategy of how we chose what B-roll. It was sort of just like what worked and what I felt really illustrated, the energy of the space and the sort of feeling.
I thought the choice not to put names under the people that you're talking to, like during the film, was really interesting, and it made it feel a little more personal, like you were, just having a conversation with someone versus watching interviews. Is there a reason that you decided to go that route?
Yeah, there was definitely a question about it, but I felt pretty strongly about it. And for a long time decided not to, because one of the things that happens when you start putting people's names on a screen is it sort of looks like, this is the expert speaking. And that's how it often is, it's like the scientist and there's his name. And Mehunhe is a community where there's no experts, there's no everyone. And that was something that a lot of people said. We interviewed a lot of people and everyone was just like, everyone means something here and we really are all equal. And that's really the ethos of the space. So I didn't want to start, naming some people and then not others, because you can't obviously name everyone who's on the screen. So then you're sort of putting in this hierarchy that is really contradicts what the whole space is about. So that was kind of the reason behind that. And yeah, I'm glad to hear that you felt like it made it more intimate. I didn't want it to feel like, you were just, and you can't follow that many names anyways. It's not like you're going to remember them.
Yeah, then you end up just putting the name up every time, and it's just
Yeah.
names all the time.
But yeah, it was about kind of the ethos and not having a hierarchy.
Here's another question from someone tuning in. What would you say was the biggest challenge when filming began?
I would say the bigger challenge was in post-production than shooting. Shooting was a lot of fun, and we went on 3 different shoots and we're there for a few weeks every time, and we're really full on. The last shoot I was pregnant, which made it a little difficult to be shooting and running around in the heat all day long. But otherwise, shooting was a thrill, and everyone, the community was so supportive of us, and there was always someone sort of helping us find someone. It was kind of, it's not easy to find people in a way. Like a lot of people didn't have cell phones, and so you'd kind of just be putting the word out that you're looking for, like Lola, we were looking for like a couple weeks, and a bunch of people had their eyes out for her. And finally, one day someone ran into Mehunhe. I think it was Crespo actually. It was like, Lola's outside. We like ran out and we're like, Lola, we need to talk to you. But mostly it was wonderful shooting. What was hard was post-production and figuring out really how to best represent this space and the people.
Here's another question from someone. How long from sort of the beginning to now it coming out were you working on the story and film, and is Mehunhe still around and as active and lively as it is in the film? I mean, I assume, the world is a little different right now, but.
Yeah, I mean, Mehunhe is still there. They are, it is mostly an outdoor space, but they are open with limited capacity for COVID. And yeah, they're definitely still around. we started working on I think our first shoot was in 2016. And then it was sort of full on for a while, and then sort of on and off doing post stuff and going through some obstacles. But yeah, we started in 2016.
Why wasn't there any interview stuff with the owner? He seems to pop up a few times, but you never like really hear from him in it.
Well, there are a few excerpts of interviews with him. We didn't make him sort of a huge. I think what he says in the film is really important. Some of the most important things said in the film are said by him, I would say. But I kind of wanted to portray him in the film as he is there, which is really kind of the man behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. He's always, and he, if you're watching very carefully, he's lurking in different scenes throughout the film.
You definitely see him in a couple of different, like just like in the crowd, like watching.
Yeah, and that's kind of how he is. He's not someone who he wanted and he actually said to us, I want the community to speak for this place, and I want you to, see it. He didn't want to just sit down and tell us what the space is. He wanted us to see it and feel it and learn about it through the people that spend time there.
There seems to be a really overwhelming theme in the film of, this is my home. I'm from here. I'm not leaving. Even though, so many of them went through long jail sentences and horrifying attacks and friends dying or being killed. And especially like, in the 80s and 90s, reading about Cuba, like a lot of people did leave. Did you sort of see that as making this place an even tighter community than if they had had an easier time dealing with everything?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to speak for them, but I would say, yeah, there's definitely, they stayed because they really love Cuba and they feel very proud of where they come from. And despite everything that happened to them, they have a real sense of pride in being Cuban. And we wanted to make sure that was in the film because, yeah, it means something to stay in a place despite all of that, and to stay, what Yoel says in the film, I think is really powerful, that, we decided to stay and fight. And, he says, and being with him at that moment, and hopefully it comes across in the film when he says, my friends who have left, I think they have a need to be here. And there's something really powerful and interesting about that, because often, and someone once said to me, well, Cubans might take offense to that, Cubans who left. And, we're not trying to, take a position one way or another, but I just thought it was really powerful that, yeah, they decided to stay and they changed their country.
Have you stayed in contact with any of them, and have they seen the film at all?
Yeah, I've been planning to do a screening at Mehunhe, but it's been complicated, even more so because of COVID. But I've sent the film over to Yuka, who worked with us on sound, who lives there and is part of the community there. So I'm hoping he's going to organize a screening at Mehunhe. And yeah, I'm definitely still in touch with people. A few people have left Cuba since we made the film. But yeah, I'm in touch with a few people there and they're doing well.
That's good to hear. I have another question from the audience. Curious about the technical aspects of shooting, camera angle, proximity, etc., especially as these aspects relate to the subject matter of performance and audience. Can you talk about your approach to that a little bit?
we really we had 2 cameras, and we just spent a lot of time with people and tried to be sort of up close with people, tried to create a sense of intimacy, I think was really important, and really try to translate the experience of being there as much as we could.
What do you have? Do you have any other projects? I mean, this is just, obviously coming out, so it's, still something you're actively working on, I assume. But do you have other ideas of stuff you're going to do next?
I'm actually just finishing a short film that I'm hoping to start submitting to festivals and get out there soon. That's quite different. It's kind of a more experimental short film that is anchored around Walter Benjamin and deals with the border and migration issues, and sort of ties together stories from the past and from my own family's escape from Germany during the Holocaust with migrants at the US-Mexican border. And that, yeah. Sort of a long-winded.
Sounds interesting. Heavy subject matter, but interesting. Is there anything else you'd like people to know, or that you want to mention about the film, or anything like that?
No, just if you go to Cuba at some point, send our love. Go to Mejunje. It's a really wonderful place, and please spread the word about the film. You can contact us if you have further questions or want to be kept in the loop through our website, queensoftherevolution.com. And my production company, where you can find information about the short and other things, is koanfilms.com, KOAN films.com.
And also, this is, the film will be available as part of Sound Unseen through Saturday. So people who saw the film, please tell your friends who live in Minnesota and Texas. Because this is it's fantastic. We're so happy that we were able to play it, and are able to talk to you about the film, and wish you all the luck with the rest of it, with what happens next. Do you have a physical release plan or anything after festivals?
I'm not sure right now. Physical things seem kind of strange, but we'll keep our website updated, and we have a Facebook page, so follow us, and we'll keep you in the loop.
Awesome. Well, Rebecca Heidenberg, thank you very much for joining us. Everyone, thank you for tuning in to this Q&A and supporting Sound Unseen. And good luck with everything that comes after this.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.